We're back again, and I'm excited to come and share what inspired me to write my debut novel. And for many of you who are new here, my name is Brittany, and my author's pen name is Brittany Janae. And for all of my returners, hi, sweethearts, and welcome back. So while I am sharing what inspired me to write my debut novel, I wanted to come into the kitchen and make my favorite breakfast drink, which is a protein matcha latte. And I wanted to do it while sharing what inspired me to write my first novel. So to get started, I always grab one of my favorite glasses that I got from Amazon, and I put a couple of cubes of ice in it. And I also use my favorite protein milkshake, which is the Fairlife Core Power Elite, which has like 42 grams of protein in its whole bottle. I love the strawberry flavor and the vanilla flavor. I started the strawberry flavor like recently, and it's so good. But because I only have a little bit of this left, I'm mixing it with my vanilla. And I also grabbed my protein powder, which is the Jade Leaf protein powder matcha latte, well, protein culinary grade powder matcha, and I just ran out, so I gotta get some more. So I literally had just enough to make our drink today. And so what I end up doing is I take a cup and a fourth of my protein milkshake, and I mix it and I pour it into my glass, and then I do a little I zhuzh it up. I don't have like the little fancy whisk and bowl. I end up taking like a small like Tupperware bowl with a lid, and I put like the warm water inside, and I mix it together to make my protein matcha latte. And then of course, the finishing touch is I will put my vitamin D and K into my protein matcha latte, because of course we need it as friends who are melanated. So that's usually what I do, and I like mix it all together and I make my drink. But let's get to like the reason why you're here. So when I was in the classroom, I worked at a YMCA, and the YMCA that I worked at in particular had established a partnership with a local school district. This local school district was in great need of assistance with getting their preschoolers kindergarten ready. And so if you ever know about the Y, or you're just learning about the YMCA in various parts of the nation has preschool programs and even early childhood programs. And for the program that I was teaching for, I taught a mixed level class where I had 3-year-olds to 5-year-olds. And the whole purpose of our program was making sure our students left us ready for kindergarten with the skills that they need to be able to sail. And so the school district understood that the Y was all about that. And we had track record to align with the progress that we've made in various students' lives. And so being that our Y partnered with the school district meant I needed to leave YMCA soil, and I had to go have and set up a classroom inside of a public school. And so while there, we were there for a couple of years, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was a great environment to be in, to be surrounded by other educators, because normally as a YMCA teacher, you're literally the only YMCA teacher majority of the times outside of your assistant teacher. So it was great to be around other educators who you could bounce ideas off of, share things, and just have a positive teacher community. Because I know sometimes being an educator, you may not always be a positive environment, but the one that I was in was positive, thank God. So what ended up happening was I ended up developing a great teacher friend group. And to this day, even though I'm no longer in Ohio, they're kind of mad at me about that, but I still connect with them and talk with them to this day. And so I remember one day with my teacher friend group, we were in the teacher's lounge, and a lot of us were lover girls at heart. And being a lover girl at heart, a lot of us would read we would read, well, mainly me, because they didn't bring their books to school. I would bring my Kindle to school and I would read my book of like the week, month, whatever day, depending on how fast I read it, I would read it. And so one particular day, they're talking about like love, relationships, and we can begin to talk about like our romance stories, like our favorite romance stories, books that we have on our TBR that we want to go read, buy, and eventually read. And so we're sharing our books. I'm sharing my huge list of books because I'm a bookworm, and we begin to share like our ideas. And so while they're continuing to talk about their books, I literally sit there and I'm listening, and I realized I don't think I ever recall reading a book about like a teacher falling in love. Like, at least I haven't. I don't know. Maybe you guys have. If you do, share them in the comments because I would love to be able to add your book suggestions to my TBR list. So what ended up happening was I get this humongous download of an idea to write a story about a preschool teacher who falls in love. And so I don't have my notebook. I always have to have a notebook nearby. My friends tease me about that because they're like, you're always getting like ideas and they come out of nowhere. Like I could watch a random TV show and get an idea and I will have to write it down because I will forget and I will have to go back to it. So like I wrote down in my phone's notepad, which has a ton of ideas there now, and I wrote it down. And I began to ponder, like, what could this story evolve into? Who could the main male character be? And so as I'm driving home after I left school that day, it's fall, and I'm also in Columbus, Ohio. And if you've ever been to Columbus, Ohio, fall in Columbus, Ohio is gorgeous. The trees have all changed colors. It looks so beautiful, the nature as well. And so I was like, this could be a really romantic setting to place a romance story. And so I was like, let's make a fictional town that is like Columbus, Ohio. And so of course, being that I'm in Columbus, Ohio, I was like, wait, the main character for the guy should be a college football coach. Because if you know Columbus, Ohio, it's all about The Ohio State University. And of course, I had to put an inspiration university that is kind of similar to the, of course, OHIO. And so I end up going home. I grab dinner, I sit down, and I'm just like sitting in front of my TV, and I'm just like I grab an empty notebook in the house that I find, and I'm just like jotting down my thoughts. And then after jotting down my thoughts, I'm then like writing a rough draft of what the book should like play out. And I was like, wait, I naturally love romance comedy, and I love to have a comedic relief in the story, because being in my family, we like tend to be very funny and silly. And so I was like, I wanted to incorporate that in the story. And so I remember recalling like all of my friends that are around me. So I have really close friends from like high school and college that I still connect to. It's not many, but they're like super close. Like to this day, if I call them, we could be silly, everything, like we go catch up and it will be the silliest things in the world, which is funny because I'm more introverted and they're extroverted, but it goes hand in hand. And so I ended up writing in a best friend male character for both characters, for the male and the female character, but the one for my female character, she is a hoot in the story. So I wanted her to be the comedic relief. Kind of think of like Tiffany Haddish, but without the extraness of Tiffany Haddish. So that's what I wanted. And so I began to like this week, I am like going in on like writing down what I'm thinking, my thoughts, and jotting them down. And so after I poured all my thoughts out on paper, I then go back to school and I ask my teacher friends, hey, I have an idea about writing this book. And I tell them what the like core, like I guess you could say like really short draft like summary of what the book could be about. they got excited, and then they started sharing their ideas of what I should include and how I should do this and how I should do that. So I'm writing down their ideas, and then I'm trying to incorporate it as well so that I can like bring the story to like a whole. And so after a while, so like a few weeks go by, I was like, I need to make myself write this story. And so of course at that time, NaNoWriMo was still like in existence, and people still abided by like that particular community. So I was like, well, why not just do this challenge? Like, I'll write every single day in the month of November, and I would try to write between 1,000 and 2,000 words. And so that was my goal. So I was like, let's try it. This is my first time out. Never done this before. We'll see how it goes. And so that's what I do. Daily I leave school, I go home, and I sit and I write. I try to write between 1,000 and 2,000 words. And if I didn't get 1,000, I was okay that I at least wrote something. And by the time, like, I didn't accomplish the like 50,000 like word count goal, but I did at least make almost half, which was about like 24,000 words that I've written for that particular month, which is great as a person who started out and never written a book in their life, like a whole book. So I was excited and I was glad, but I stopped because, remember in the story in the video before, I shared about like doubts and fears, and so like a lot of those crept in. But then I ended up getting a lot of friends to share, to read it, and they enjoyed it and they loved it and they gave their feedback. And so I kept going. And so, but then of course, the editing, me being a first time writer, I went back and edited, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But then now that I see it today, and I'm like still giving the story life, I still have a few word counts to keep going, a few thousand word counts to keep going. I'm glad that I kind of went and edited, because it helped me to clean cut it. Especially going from like a person who's never written a book before and never written an outline, a draft or anything, it allowed me to have the space that I needed to like create a clear outline for the whole entire story, write down the ideas, write down chapter by chapter outline of what I would love it to look like. And so it gave me a clear plan. And that's where I am today, where I'm still writing out the story. The main characters and the setting is all there. I've been able to like really envision these people that I'm writing. And I'm glad that, even though I've never written a book before, I'm glad that, and I'm fortunate for my creative writing class from my undergrad university. I went to North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I had a professor there in one of my electives. It was a creative writing elective. Don't know why I took it, but I did. I remember she gave us an assignment to write a fiction-based story about something that really, really impacted us, and she wanted us to write it and turn it in. So being me, being a millennial, growing up in the world of crises, where it's like something is always happening in my little youthful life as a kid, I ended up writing a story about a kid who was living in New York City during the time of the World Trade Center incident. And because that was something that was hugely impacted in my life, and I was able to see it, everything happen, and it because they turned the TVs on as a kid, and you're in school. So they turned the TVs on, so we're watching this. So I was like, why not write this story? Like, I have family, my mom, my uncles, they're from New York. So I was like, why not? And so I wrote the story, not thinking anything of it. And I just wrote it in the perspective of a child who saw this happening in their city. And I wrote the story, turned it in, didn't think nothing of it. I was like, it was good. I thought it was amazing. So I ended up turning in the story. I knew I was going to get a good grade, but I did not anticipate my teacher's reaction. And so what ended up happening was, my teacher pulls me after class. The first thing she asked me was, what is your major? And I was like, biology. And I'll get into that later, because in the next video, I'm gonna share all about what I wanted to be as a kid to like where we're getting to now. So I tell her biology, and she's like, you are lying. She was like, I need you to, she's like, if you stay in that career, I need you to at least write something. And she was just like, your work was amazing. She was just like, it felt so real and moved her. And she was even more floored when I told her the story was not real, like it was fiction. And she was like, yeah, you definitely need to pursue writing in some type of capacity as a career in the future. And to be honest, it's been years since I thought about that whole incident, until one day while packing up to like move back home. It's been like a couple of months, a couple of years. So I basically found that I kept the story from my creative writing class and the notes from my teacher. And I recall everything that happened during that time. And I was like, wow, who would have thought that this is like a whole prophetic word of like where I was before when I was in undergrad taking this creative writing class. I never thought that I was going to be here today. And to think like the life that I thought I was going to be, the career that I was going to be in, has evolved and changed to something that I never anticipate ever happening into my life. And I'm kind of glad. I'm glad that I remembered that class. I'm glad that I held on to the evidence produced during that class, because it also helped me to see a positive light through the tunnel. And I'm glad that I'm here now, even talking to you, sharing my beginning of like the whole process of writing this novel and the inspiration, because we all have an origin story. It all comes from somewhere, and there's always little droplets of people and things and places that help us to inspire what we want to do, how we want to do it. And in our heads we see it, which tends to happen to me a lot, where we see it in our head, but we are trying to put it out on paper to help other people see our vision and come on and bring them along on the journey. And so I am glad for you guys, my community. I'm so glad for my friends and my family, and even that my creative writing professor, who I have no idea if she is even still at my alma mater. But I'm glad, because it has helped me so much and it has impacted me in so many different ways. And I am glad to continue to write this story and give it to life, and to actually put it in your hands so that you can physically read it yourselves. But I'm glad that I shared all of that, and I hope to see you in the next video, where I talk about what I wanted to be as a career growing up as a kid to like where we're going to now in the future. Well, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.